Hey guys, how are we doing today? Welcome to MacMarize. So this has been an interesting week to say the least. This has been an interesting month to say the least. So Apple released their new iPhone 14 lineup and people are very interested in knowing whether it's still worth buying. Well, as much as the iPhone 14 does bring improvement, there are a few things that you need to learn when it comes to iPhone 13. Specifically in India, the iPhone 13 will be now priced below 50,000 for the upcoming Big Billion Day sale. Now, those are, fairly confirmed kind of rumors, but should you buy the iPhone 13 at this lower price or should you still gun for the iPhone 14? Well, this video will give you all the information that you need to make your purchase. Without any further ado, let's get started. But before we do that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you've seen our recent reels, there is also going to be a video on the Xbox One, which is something that you do not see very easily nowadays, is it? Right? So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. So make sure that you stay tuned and subscribe to our channel. We do have Alan Walker giveaway where you may also stand a chance to win an Alan Walker concert pass. Now to enjoy that, to take part in that, make sure you follow the link given down below in the description. Now let's get started. First, let's talk about the design front here. So we have the iPhone 13 here. This iPhone 13 is in its, this beautiful color, and it actually looks very nice. It looks very pretty, and honestly speaking, if you look at it like this, there's not many differences that come when you talk about the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 13. Also, do note the new feature of the always on display is only limited to the iPhone 14 Pro series and not the iPhone 14 standard series, right? Moving on, there are differences, subtle differences that have come between the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 14 series. Now these differences may be huge for some individuals, but for most people, let me just tell you at the start, these differences are not that much, right? First, let's talk about the price. Currently in India, you can get the iPhone 14 for about 79,000, or adding everything about 80,000 rupees. Now the dollar price will be coming down below and you can check that out. So when you talk about the pricing, right, the difference between the pricing in India versus the pricing in US, right, is that the disparity is very less for the standard iPhone 14 series, but the disparity increases a lot when you talk about the iPhone 14 Pro series, because the disparity is just too much, about 40,000 rupees. So that's something that I needed to tell you beforehand. Now that we have discussed the price of the iPhone 14, let's talk about the price of the iPhone 13. The iPhone 13 will now be available at 49,990 during sales, and normally it would come about 59,000, 60,000, right? There's still a good 20,000 odd rupees difference. Again, the dollar conversion will be down below. So now when you talk about the difference in price, does it justify paying the 20,000 more for the iPhone 14? Well, when you talk about that, let's talk about the differences between the two phones. Firstly, the chipset. Now we do know that the A15 Bionic chip is in both the phones, right? The iPhone 13 has the A15 Bionic and the iPhone 14 has the A15 Bionic. The only difference that comes are the GPU cores, where the iPhone 14 has more GPU cores in comparison to iPhone 13. Does it translate to a greater kind of greater performance? No. The reality is that the iPhone 13 itself was so powerful that if you do upgrade from an iPhone 13 to an iPhone 14, you're not going to see a lot of differences. There's not going to be much for you to explore. So that is something that you do need to realize. Moving on, let's talk about the camera, right? Now this is where probably the iPhone 14 does edge out the iPhone 13 to a certain degree. When you talk about the iPhone 13, right, the cameras remain same with the iPhone 14 except for the front camera. Now the front camera, still 12 megapixel, has autofocus capabilities. Now autofocus capabilities will make it better for your front camera to have greater focus, greater depth of field effect, all of that stuff. It would be much better. So that is something that has been upgraded. The sensor is also a little bit bigger when you talk about the iPhone 14, but is it big enough to cause a huge amount of difference? Do let me know down in the comments whether you find this difference to be big enough as they told in their presentation. Do you think that the difference is big enough to justify the extra cost? Another thing that is coming to the iPhone 14 is improved battery. Now, on paper, Apple has said that the battery improvement is a lot, but in reality, when you talk about comparison to the iPhone 13, the battery improvement will be not that significant, right? Now, landscape, landscape face unlock is available on all iPhones, so that won't be an issue, right? The autofocus, the camera, and the better modem. Now that is one thing that I did not talk about, is the better modem. So you do know that the iPhone 13 comes with a 5G modem, but iPhone 14 improves on it. If you have seen, a few reviews and other things, when compared to Android phones, iPhone modems have kind of gotten a little slower in comparison and contrast to what they were on something like Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra, right, which is the flagship for Samsung, or even Samsung Galaxy S22. Now, with the iPhone 14, Apple has modified the modems. Apple has created this kind of better connectivity, which is important, especially with 5G, and the 5G is coming to India very, very soon. So yes, also it will be more battery efficient when it comes to 5G. So that is also something that we need to consider, we need to remember. Another major thing is the safety part of it. So for safety, Apple has included two features in the iPhone 14. One is collision detection. So if you're having your phone with you and your car, I hope that never happens, but your car does have an accident, the iPhone 14 will detect a collision, ask you whether you're okay. If you do not respond in a certain period of time, it will call the help services, and the emergency services will come and help you. So that is a very good feature, that is very, very nice. Another thing that they have included is probably the satellite connectivity feature, which is a mega feature. Now, do note that this feature does not go beyond the realm of emergency, right? This is not a feature that you can use. Let's say you do not get connectivity in something like Jammu and Kashmir, and you try to connect to a satellite. It's going to just allow you to send one text. It's going to be a subscription based service. Moreover, it is going to take time to come to places like India. Right now, it's only available in the US and Canada, if I'm not mistaken. But other places, these services are going to take time to come. A major change that has come with the iPhone 14, for those of you who are trying to import one from the US, is that the iPhone 14s in the US will now not have a SIM slot. That means the US versions will only use eSIMs. So do note, if you do plan to import, eSIMs do work in India. There's no problem as far as eSIMs are concerned, but there's a huge but there. Do not get an iPhone 14 that is carrier locked, because carrier locked iPhone 14s will not be usable in India with any eSIM, since they're carrier locked. So that is something that you do need to remember. Otherwise, the iPhone 14 has some upgrades as far as safety goes or camera goes, but do they justify the 20,000 extra payment? Not entirely. Yes, there is a certain population that will benefit from the extra features that the iPhone 14 is making available, especially those students who are going abroad. They can think of, if you've yet not purchased an iPhone, you can think of purchasing an iPhone 14 because it will work flawlessly in the US. You'll also get the whole suite of capabilities like satellite connectivity, all of that. But if you're someone who has an iPhone 12 or who has an iPhone 13, it does not make a lot of sense to upgrade, unless you're someone who likes to upgrade to the newest collection of an iPhone. Then you probably should also check out the newest collection of MacMerais for iPhone 14s and iPhone 13s. Links down in the description. I know that was a very smooth segue. With that, we're coming to the conclusions. So in conclusion, if you look at the iPhone 13 at its sale price, I would suggest that's an amazing deal. Do check that out. If you look at it, aside from that, outside that scope of an offer, and you've yet not purchased and you do have the money, I would suggest go for the newest model. iPhone 14 does come with certain upgrades that you may benefit from. And yeah, so all in all, that would be it. And if this video did help you, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, tell us your thoughts. And thanks for watching, guys, and see you in the next one.